This is the story of leprechauns. Once upon a time, there were six elves that worked for Santa's shoe department. The color code for dress in the shoe department was green, so they all wore green. Not the matching outfits, but green nevertheless. The lead elf for the shoe department was Ireland. And Ireland fancied making shoes that were brown leather with brass buckles. Scotland also made a brown leather shoe, but his shoes tied up. He liked to have them tied because he often danced. Now, England, of course, he was more conservative and dressy, so his shoes were normally a black shoe, and he also made these really cool slippers that went over top of his shoes to protect them from rain. The twins, Anglo and Saxon, they wore a fun type of shoe that was made of carved wood, and often they would dance in their shoes and click their heels together. Now Patrick, he was a happy elf. And Patrick, he liked to make shoes that other people really liked. He made sneakers, he made flip-flops and slides. And Patrick always had a happy vibe about him. But nevertheless, children often didn't like getting shoes as Christmas gifts. And the popularity for their shoes often went down. In Ireland, he was sort of fed up with it. And he went to Santa, he said, and he had sort of a southern accent from his part of the world. You know, Santa, we are getting tired of making these shoes, and the kids are ungrateful and they don't like shoes for Christmas gifts, and we're going to quit. Quit? Said Santa. Please don't quit. We're so close to Christmas. Just hang around and make your gifts, and we'll get them out for the kids to Christmas. But Ireland talked to the other ones. He talked to Scotland. He talked to England. He talked to the twins, Anglo and Saxon. And he talked to Patrick. And he said, boys, we're out of here. I'm not hanging around. We're going to look somewhere else where we can work. Somewhere where people would really like our gifts. Really like our shoes. So he talked all of the other elves into leaving. Except for Patrick, of course. Patrick didn't want to disappoint Santa. So Patrick, he stuck around and he made his gifts clean up until Christmas. Santa was very disappointed with the other elves. And he told Ireland, he said, Ireland, you let me down, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you your money. But if you want to find your money, you're going to have to follow a rainbow to get your pot of gold at the end of that rainbow. And I said, what do you mean, Santa? Well, Santa said, you left us, so I'm going to make it hard for you to find your money. Really? Said the other elves. So he said, when you see your rainbow, you better hop on it and ride it before it disappears, or you will not find your pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. So the first rainbow appeared, and Ireland, he jumped on his rainbow, and he rode it to the end, far away from the North Pole, and he landed in a land that he decided to stay and live in. And he said, you know, I'll name this place after myself. And the place that he landed and lives even today is called Ireland. Little Scotland grabbed his bagpipes and he played a little tune. And he looked up at the sky and he looked up at the moon. And all of a sudden, his rainbow appeared. And Ireland jumped on it. And he rode that rainbow. And when it landed in this land of a bunch of hills, he decided to stay there and live. And he named it after himself as well. And he named it Scotland. Well, England really wasn't happy with the deal, but he kept his chin up and he said, "Okay, Santa, have it your way." And he waited, and it rained, and it got foggy out, but nevertheless, a rainbow peeked out from that fog, and England rode it all the way to the end where his pot of gold waited for him, and he stayed, and he likewise named it after himself. England. And it still gets rainy and foggy to this day in England. Well, the twins, Anglo and Saxon, they said, "Santa, put our rainbows together." And you know, on the days that you look out and you see two rainbows, if you follow those rainbows to the end, you'll find Anglo and Saxon, because their rainbow landed somewhere in Central Europe. And that's where they stayed and played. And they hung out in a place called Holland. And they hung out in a place called Germany. And it was Deutschland, as they called it. And they stayed. And everyone in that land of Holland loved those wooden shoes. And everybody just ordered shoes from them. And Anglo and Saxon are still making wooden shoes there today. Well, what do you know, lo and behold? Patrick said, "I understand, Santa. If you want to be fair and put my money at the end of a rainbow, I'll follow it. And if you ever need me to make some shoes," Patrick said, "I'm your guy." Well, what do you know? Patrick's rainbow landed in a land called America. And Patrick made people so happy with his shoes. They said, "You're such a Saint, Patrick. We're going to name a day after you." And to this day, in America, they celebrate St. Patrick's Day. And people have parades in Chicago. They color the Chicago River green. And they have a parade. And everybody, they come out to celebrate this happy shoemaking elf named Patrick. And you know, another thing happened with the elves. They used to leap a lot. And everybody asked them, "Why are you elves always leaping up and down?" They said in their southern accent from the land they came from, "We leap because we can." And everybody called them leprechauns. And with their accent, when they said it sounded like leprechauns. They said, "We're leprechauns. We leap because we can." And that is the story of leprechauns.